Hello, my friends. Welcome back to the Quack House. My name is Anna and I am the maker behind Quack House Crochet. If you are new here, thank you so much for stopping by to my little corner of the internet. And if you are a returning friend, thank you so much for coming back and joining me here. If you haven't already done so, please consider subscribing to my channel. And if you like the content that you have seen or are about to see, please feel free to like this video and interact with me down in the comments. All right, so this is actually going to be episode 2 of Hookin' Up the Town. Yeah, we went with that name. This is a little series where we kind of go around to our vendor friends, small business friends, people that we know that we have been at markets with, or maybe even just like a cool little vendor that we've seen around the town. And we look up their logos or their mascots or something that is like related to their business, and we try to show them our love and support and our small business solidarity by crocheting a small item for them. Episode 1 was, of course, our coffee beaner friend. So we were so happy that that guy was received so well. It's funny because we've actually been back to this market and to this booth where these guys vend, and he is proudly displayed at the front of their booth, right in front of like the iPad where they accept payments. We are so happy that he is so well loved. So this is going to be episode 2 of that series. Now this one is one that I've had on my heart for a long time. This vendor that we're going to be working on today is called B&P Freeze Dry Candy. These guys have become such lovely vendor neighbors. We always look forward to seeing them. They've got a great product. We are frequent flyers. Yes, we have the stamp card to prove it. And like I said, if you've been around this channel and you have watched my previous videos, you know that Mr. Quack House is an avid fan of of these guys. But we really love them. They're such good people. They're so nice. They always support us. We try as much as we can to support them. So I thought today what we would do is we would actually try and crochet their little mascot. So don't mind, because this is an old bag that is now empty, but I've been holding on to it because I want to reference this little guy right here. So this is their mascot. And at first I thought it was like an axolotl. You know what I mean? Like an axolotl that was kind of mimicking a piece of candy. I hope this is focused for y'all. But I don't want to assume that it is an axolotl. So I think this is what we're going to do. I think we're going to do the face. That should be easy peasy enough, right? Just like a nice little circle. This little curly Q here will also be really simple. We can just kind of crochet that in, like a surface crochet that in, do a quick little chain, and then start off with a couple of increases and then single crochet down the chain. The crown should be relatively easy to make, as well as these little frills here on the side. But what I'm thinking is that instead of just making these like a flat frill, I kind of want them to be like real 3D and opened. I'm not explaining this well. I kind of want to transition over to my iPad and see if I can explain it better by kind of drawing it out there. So let me see if I can do that. Give me a second. Don't laugh at my art skills. They are very rudimentary. Okay, so this is what I have in mind, right? Obviously, there's a circle. Again, like I said, do not mind my art skills, and that should be easy enough. And then right about here, I can surface crochet in a little chain, and then do a couple of increases right along here. And then as I go towards the end, right, just single crochet. That will help to give it like a natural curl. The crown is something that should be easy enough to do. I can work those in with some, I think actually what I'm going to do for this is I'm going to crochet a flat piece. You know what I mean? Something that looks like this. And then I can sew it along these edges, right? Make it a nice circle and sew it along those edges right there so that it's nice and round. And then obviously sew this edge right into the head. But then what I was talking about, and then of course, obviously for like the facial detailing, we can embroider some facial detailing there. But so what I was talking about was that for this portion of like the little candy thing, initially when I thought it was an axolotl, I was like, oh, that could be easy enough, right? Just do like some little slip stitches and chains and increases and stuff here. But since we're going for a piece of candy, what I'm thinking instead is, now imagine this is the side view, right? So his little face is this way. Again, dude, I did go to art school, all right? So what I'm thinking is, if I can surface crochet a bunch of single crochets in a circle like that, and then as I work my way around, right, do like some double crochets and half double crochets, so it's actually more three-dimensional and comes out like an actual candy wrapper would. I hope this is making sense. I have a vision, okay? I have a vision in my head. I think this could work. But this is all I have in my head right now. So we're gonna start with the easiest part first, which is going to be this guy right here, and then obviously the little curly Q. We will move on to the crown. Actually, I think I keep wanting to call them gills because, like I said, he really does look like an axolotl to me. But we'll do the little candy wrapper pieces on this side and this side next, because again, I think those will be super easy. It'll just be a matter of like making sure that it's nice and like centered in the side, and that I do it, that I position this circle so that it gives me a nice enough ratio of what I want to do, like with the candy wrapper, if that makes any sense. And then the crown may or may not be the most difficult part, because I think what will be interesting is trying to figure out how to do these peaks and valleys. And yeah, that is the plan. That is my actual plan for this. So if you didn't gather from that little bit, this is actually going to be me attempting to freehand this. Maybe I could design a pattern out of it. I don't know. Is that something that like y'all would be interested in? Like, I know this is with the crown and stuff, it's kind of niche. It's very specific to this vendor. But Halloween is coming up. Maybe a little candy guy, you know what I mean, would be kind of a cute thing, and I could put it out, since I don't think it's going to be so difficult, but I could put it out as like maybe a free pattern on Instagram or something. Could possibly do that. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. It's possible that by the time this video comes out, I may have already made that decision, but let me know what you think, because I like to bounce ideas off of y'all. The other thing I'm wondering about is that his little face, is it more circular, or is it more of an oval, or is it just giving oval vibes because of the way these things are sitting, you know what I mean, like on the side of his face? There's also a part of me that's wondering what this is. Like, are those his little candy arms just like folded across his chest? But I don't want to think too much into it, because I know myself. I overthink everything, and I think that's probably what I'm doing now. And speaking of overthinking, the other thing that I probably am going to want to like lock down is, what colors am I going to use? I obviously want it to be very bright and, you know, colorful and very cheerful colors, but my my thought process, where I'm leaning towards, what I'm gravitating more towards right now, is like those traditional candy colors of like pinks and light blues and like pastel-y purples, almost I think like a actually something kind of like this. Like this is kind of this is like my little pencil case where I keep all my hooks and stuff, but I'm almost kind of gravitating towards a palette like this, like something like this. When I went onto their website, and I'll probably pop up a little like screen grab of me doing that, but when I went onto their website, they don't actually show this mascot. They don't actually show him at all. All of their candies that they use are very much in like these bold primary color palettes. The background of like their banners that they use when they go to markets is actually of their freeze-dried Skittles. So I'm kind of like, do I go the route of making them in like Skittles colors, which are very primary color coordinated? I don't know. I have yet to decide on that. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to look through some Google images and see like what a drawing of a happy candy looks like, and get some inspiration from there. And then I'll start working on this and see if I can start like recording as I work exactly what it is that I'm doing. Yeah, and then we will do that, and I will check in with you when I have made some progress. Are y'all ready for the first like prototype? I think it's so cute. Okay, so let's compare it, shall we? So this is what we were working with, and this is what we have so far. So remember how I was saying that I couldn't really tell if this was like a perfect circle or if it was more like ovally, and then I didn't know if the reason why it looked more oval was because of the like frills on the side. Well, I think this is pretty much like, I think that portrays that. So this basically by itself is pretty much just a circle. You know what I mean? But I think when you add in these frills, the little candy wrapper frills, it kind of does that same thing where it almost gives it that illusion that it's more of an oval than just a circle. But all of that to say, I think we have accomplished it, at least that base structure. I changed the colors right in here because as you can see here, there's like a little border or something there, but so I thought that kind of reflected that. And so I'm actually really happy with this guy. So I think he's cute so far. He's not like gymongous, but he's also not like so small that he's not worth like the time. I don't know if that makes any sense. It's like 10 o'clock at night, and y'all remember from my last video how I get in the late hours of the evening. But so I will say I was super proud. I showed this to Ducky, I showed this to my 3-year-old, and I said, "Baby, what's this?" And she said, "It's a candy." And I was like, "Yes, it's a candy," right? Because that's like I said, that's the test of, does this look like what it's supposed to look like? Because a toddler will tell you, they will be brutally honest. They give zero care about your feelings. So she was able to identify this as a candy. And for that, I am proud. Now, I will say, after that, right, I had a moment where I'm like, is this stupid? Am I embarking on something that is going to get me laughed at, I guess, essentially, because I don't know if this is stupid or if it looks dumb, or I'm second guessing myself. I've got imposter syndrome going on here. But I sent a Instagram message to my friend D, who is a pattern designer. So she is obviously like versed in the game. She is a crochet artist, and I reached out to her and I was like, I think I just designed my first pattern. Can I show it to you and can you give me some feedback? Again, making myself kind of vulnerable because I was like, I don't know if this is stupid or, you know what I mean? But she is just, first of all, she is just the sweetest, just most wonderful human being. She is such a great testament to what this community is like. She is all about sharing the love and hyping other people up, hyping up other creators. I just love her energy. So I got to talking with her and she was very encouraging. She was also very inspiring. So I've got a couple of ideas, and I think, guys, I really am gonna make this like a full-fledged pattern. So I've got a couple of things I want to try out. For what this is, like the solid color, I do like this. If I wanted to incorporate in a couple of other options, what I might do is change the orientation of the pattern from where the magic ring is at the top, and then I work down to do it this way. And what this opens up for me, right, and for other creators, is the ability to add in more like options or variations. So for example, right, you could do the center a different color, and then outside here you can make it a different color so it almost looks like you have a candy that's like filled with something. Or you could work different colors into like spirals so that, you know what I mean, it looks like you've got different spirals of flavors or colors that are working throughout the candy. And essentially, I'm changing nothing. You change nothing in the pattern, except that instead of, putting your face or your eyes here, you're now putting them on this side where the magic ring is in the center and not at the top. So that was one thing I wanted to play with for this release. I really do like how the frills came out. At first I thought maybe they weren't pronounced enough, but I think they're pretty good for what they are. And this, by the way, all no-sew. This portion of it so far is no-sew. I surface crocheted this little circle in, and then built off of that little circle, and this is what we have. Guys, I'm really proud. I'm really proud of myself. And for people, I think, like, for people who design such intricate things, like I think about like the stuff that Pika Pal makes, or Crochet by Jenna, or Wonder Crochet, or just any of these amazing creators, right? For the things that they create that are like just, they're so well thought out, they're just so creative and so clever. And I made a circle with frills. But I'm so proud of myself. Anyway, okay, I'm gonna stop yapping. The next thing I got to do is I've got to work the little, I'm calling it like the little bangs, but it's like a little curly cue. And that is this guy right here, this little curly cue. And then I have to figure out the crown. But for right now, let's work on the curly cue. That's gonna go right here. I don't know if I'm going to make it in the same blue or if I want to make it in like the accent color. I probably will make it in the same blue, but we'll play with it. I think I can accomplish that via surface crocheting as well. Let me go about figuring out how to do the curly cue and then figuring out how to do the crown. And then we can try to figure out all kinds of other things in terms of like playing with the pattern, maybe playing with the orientation, seeing if we're gonna go this way rather than this way. Actually, I think I do kind of like the shape of it this way a little bit better. So this is prototype number 1, and let's keep working on it. My friends, I'm so excited. Okay, just as a point of reference, here is the logo for B&P, or the little mascot for B&P freeze dry candy. And here's my little guy. Okay, so I was questioning the blue at first. Let me fix your crown. Okay, I was questioning the blue color choice at first, but I think with that little yellow crown and the little curly cue, he's so cute. I'm really proud of myself. I'm talking very low, by the way, because my daughter's asleep and I know she's going to feel that I am not there and be like, mommy, get back into bed. But anyway, yeah, this is how he turned out. The plan now that I've accomplished this guy, is kind of threefold. The first thing I need to do is figure out if they're going to be at the market tomorrow. I want to give this to them and then get their reaction if they will say that it's okay for us to film them. The second thing I want to do this weekend is I kind of want to play with this pattern a little bit more. So this may turn into like not just you know, hooking up the town, but it may also be like a slash design my first pattern with me. Yeah, I think we're gonna do that. And then also see if I can maybe, like I said, play with some of the other things I had in mind, like turning the pattern on its side and doing like the center, like the center filled candy or like the striped candy, and just see how those turn out. If I don't get that done this weekend, that's okay. I would like to, essentially just because I would like to include that in this, like in this video. But if I don't, I got the main portion of it done, which was getting the little mascot logo guy done. So only time will tell. I'm gonna work for as long as my daughter will stay asleep and I will stay awake. yeah, and if there's any other significant updates, I will hop right in and show you. Hi, my friends. It is a completely different day. I think the last time I checked in with y'all, it was Friday. And I told you that I would crochet as much as my daughter would allow me to. And truth be told, maybe 30-ish minutes after I said that, she came traipsing over here, like half asleep, going, "Mommy, mommy." So I was done crocheting for the night. I'm kind of excited to say that I think the design is in a place that I'm happy with it. Okay, I'm gonna stop freaking out, all right? Let me show you the kind of the evolution, right? Okay, so obviously this is what we started with. I still think it's cute, and I'm excited to give this to our vendor friends. I will say the sad thing is that I reached out to them on Facebook and checked if they were going to be at market this weekend. So they're actually not at any market this weekend. So I will have to come back to you in a later video or on socials at some point and show you their reaction to getting this guy. I've worked on them, and like I said, I think they're at a place where I'm like happy with them. So let me just show you what I came up with. So these are my candy cuties. Here's the plain one, and she comes with a little bow accessory. I mean, obviously any accessories will be interchangeable, but yeah, here's just the plain little candy with a bow. Ready? Here's the center filled candy, right? And he has like the little curly cue. I kept that from the other design because I thought that was kind of cute. So here's the little center fill, and he's center filled in both the front and the back. It looks like I modeled this one after those cowtails because just recently I have rediscovered those at work, and I just think they're yummy. Anyway, maybe I'm the only one, but I like them. But yeah, so this is a little like center filled. I already know I want to call him Nougat. Nougat, the center filled candy. And then I'm not gonna lie, guys, this one I'm really proud of, but it's also the piece that almost had me throwing things at the wall, because I wanted to get it right, and it was not. I don't know. I had a vision in my mind, and I was having trouble achieving that vision at first. And then I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna. I'll show you. Look at it, my little peppermint, my little swirly candy. And yes, he is swirled in both the front and in the back, although I will say I need to do this swirl a little bit better, but so I will be adjusting that guy. But I wanted to show him because so I was initially trying to achieve the swirl with like color changes, and so I was changing colors every other row, not like just in a perfect round, but I was actually trying to change it so that it looked like a swirl, and it looked too busy, if that makes any sense. Like there were just like the color changes were just too small together. And so I said, okay, maybe I'll change colors every other row. But when I did that, what I had trouble with was getting like all of the red to connect. I was getting kind of frustrated because I was like, how am I going to do this, right? And then I kind of went back to the drawing board. I was like, am I going to do it where it's like 4 spirals that kind of come out from the center, and then that's, you know, that would be a lot of color changes. And I wanted to honestly keep this fairly simple, so I was like, you know what, I'm just going to do this part in all white, and then I do color change up here when you get to like the perimeter, I guess, the perimeter rows. And then I'll just come back in and surface crochet some slip stitches right there. And so that is how I achieved that spiral. And I thought it would look cute with this little like elf's hat. But yeah, so I've got 3 different like styles of candy. and 3 different accessories or add-ons. I've got the hat, I've got the bow, see if I can get this other guy in here, and I have the little bangs or the little swirl, the little curly Q right there. And then, like I said, as you can see, like dropping all of these, as you can see right in here, this is hollow. So I liked that because it was like, I don't know, I just like that it's kind of like hollow. I thought that was cool and different. Maybe it's not so different, maybe I'm just delusional after working on these for so long. Maybe I've got, you know, that mother's pride where you're like, my child is amazing but so is every other kid. And then the other thing too was that I liked having 3 different options for frills. So you can also, I like to show some variation rather in how you can do the little candy frills as well. So I did one variation where, you know, you do the base one color and then the actual frill a different color. I did this variation where it is the top of the frill that is a different color. And then of course, right, you have like the solid frill, because I figured this guy's already got enough going on his face. We'll just keep these outer edges solid. Yeah, these are my little candy cuties. I'm very, very proud of them. They're very, I would say they're very quick to make. So this guy with the spirals and the frills, he took me 45 minutes once I figured out that this is what I wanted to do, and that is including the color changes and including not sewing on but making the little hat. Because yeah, oh, and that's the other thing, is these are all, with the exception of like the little accessories, these can all be no sew. The only thing you would have to sew on is if you decided to make the hat or the bow, then you would need to sew those on. But these little frills on the side are surface crocheted. Obviously the spirals are surface crocheted, and then this little curly Q bang is surface crocheted as well. I will say though, okay, I'm also hitting or experiencing a little bit of that like imposter syndrome of like, okay, yeah, I think these are cute, but then I look back at them again and I'm like, all right, but those were really simple. Who's gonna even want to buy these? Who's gonna even want to make these? Kind of thing. It's just, I don't know if this is just me, if this is just like an anxiety thing that I face, or if all pattern designers go through this, or if you go through it the first time and then every other time you make a pattern it like all falls into place and it clicks and you become sure that what you're releasing is, you know, gonna do well, or if you just feel like this with every pattern. I don't know, I'm rambling at this point, I apologize, but I wanted to be very real and very honest with you. It's just kind of about what is going through my head at this point, because I don't want to sit here and be like, oh, I made these amazing things, and then, you know, at the end, if I look back at it and then maybe you're looking back at it and you're like, girl, it's a circle. Girl, it's a circle. So just wanted to throw that out there. And yeah, I have reached out to a couple of content creators and designers who I really admire, to ask them for their opinion, and to ask them if they would consider testing for me. So far they have all been so gracious of saying like, if we have the time, absolutely, congratulations on your first pattern. But it's just really sweet. Like, they could have just completely blown me off, and they didn't do that. And just the fact that they're willing to respond to somebody who's asking them for help, like, that's so appreciated. And I think it's a true testament to the community over competition spirit of this community, of this whole crochet community. But yeah, I did that primarily because obviously their opinions mean something to me. The other reason why I did that is because I just don't feel like I've got enough I just don't feel like I have enough of a following to be like, hey guys, who wants to pattern test these for me? Because again, I don't know how they'll be received. The other thing is that I was thinking of maybe releasing this cutie as a free pattern on Instagram, with the bow and everything, and even with the curly Q. I think people who want this, like, it would be easy enough for them to figure out like the color changes to make like a center fill. So releasing this one as a free pattern on Instagram, and then maybe taking the 3 of these as a pack, writing up the pattern, and then releasing that as a paid pattern on Etsy. Yeah, those are my thoughts. So let me know in the comments down below what you think about my candy cuties, right? Like, do you think, I don't know, are they maybe not unique? I'm sure if I Googled it right now, there would be a million different like candy crochet patterns, but like, you know, do you think they have what it takes to be out there in the world? For lack of a better term. Are these something that you would be interested in making? Would you be interested in the free pattern, or maybe even purchasing a pattern? What other variations could I do? I know I definitely want to also take a look at if these are received well, doing like a longer version and a larger version, almost like a huggable pillow and like Tootsie Roll style, right? Oh, and then I could name that one Toots. Okay, my head is turning. I know I want to, the other thing is, I know I want to name this guy Nougat. I think that's a cute name. So we'll have Nougat, maybe Pepper for this one, because, you know, swirls, you think of peppermint. But what could I name this girl or guy? What could I name this little cutie? So they're going to be called the Candy Cuties, I think. The Confection Cuties, I don't know. But what could we name this little girl down below? Thank you so much for joining me again. Thank you so much for being a part of the flock here at the Quack House. If you liked this content, if you liked these patterns, give me a like. Consider subscribing to my channel if you haven't already. I am so happy that you are here and really, really curious as to what your thoughts are for these little guys. Yeah, I will see you next time. Bye.